Hello, everyone. I'm Umbreon Libris, and welcome to this very special episode of Tin Tower Talks. This episode is being recorded on a live stream on May 11th, 2020. And since this is the first live recording of this podcast, I hope that you will bear with us for any technical issues. But if you're watching or listening to this after the fact, it will be a slightly edited version just to clean things up a bit. So joining me today are two amazing creators and veteran Pokemon theorists who are both inspirations for me to start on my creator journey. So I hope that you will join me in welcoming Birdkeeper Toby and Lockstin. I think most people here probably already know both of you, but do you want to say a little bit about what you do on your channels?
I've been delving a lot into Pokemon lore recently and design origins primarily, just covering basically every little detail that I can come up with, going through all of the moves. We're about to start going through egg groups and abilities. And I've been doing a lot of Fakemon generating lately, and that's been really fun. And that's what I'm all about lately. Who knows what it'll be a year from now.
Yeah.
They've been really cool. I've been seeing those on Twitter, some of those Fakemon. And some of them are just looking great. I can't remember who it was I saw the other day, but I think it was a regional variant of something you had made, and I just thought, that's so perfect and so creative. I hope they take them on board. They are. Fakemon are. I don't think I'd have the kind of fortitude to sit down and do a whole region's worth. I just kind of do 10 at a time, here, there, and everywhere. I do Fakemon stuff. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Birdkeeper Toby. I do Fakemon things from time to time. Usually, I try and do Pokemon theories where I can. It's been a lot more top 10s lately. Favorite this, least favorite that, which not my favorite thing to make in the world, but right now it's kind of like we're waiting for the next DLC, and it's usually when a new thing's coming out, I get super excited about that thing. In the meantime, though, I do always try once a year to do something a little bit special, a little bit extra. In the works right now, I have something where I'm playing a live-action version of Todd Snap, which should have the first episode out this month, which I'm so excited. I'm working with Kevin Crust, who I think some of you probably well know, and it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it, but that's what I'm about. Awesome. Pokemon stuff.
Yeah, just to clarify for the chat, no, Lockstin is having some kind of issue with his audio, and that's why he sounds so deep.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Not his actual voice.
Yes, the chat is all like, Thanos, Lockstin. Lockstin sounds like honest trailer guy.
I've restarted my computer. I've replugged in the microphone several times. I have no idea.
Can you say I'm inevitable? Just in the.
I am inevitable.
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 You are inevitable.
I've actually never seen that one.
All right, and I should also introduce my wife Indigo, who is also joining us today. She will be acting as the voice of the chat, so she will be paying attention to what you guys are saying, more than I can anyway. And so, yeah, she'll probably be on screen, but probably not talking very much for most of the time.
I'm invisible.
Yeah, so we need to look at the chat today because we're doing things quite differently. Not only is this live, but we don't exactly know what we're going to talk about. All we know is that we're here to come up with a Pokemon theory live, and we've each prepared some ideas, but we haven't talked about them, and we want your help in the chat to help us decide which one we want to talk about, and also, help us work through that theory. And these ideas will hopefully be things that we can mostly just talk about without having to do too much in-depth research, because that would probably be pretty boring for you to watch.
Sure, yeah.
So, Toby, do you want to get us started?
Sure. I mean, I've actually got quite a few. When coming into this, I've got an ideas list that I keep that has been growing for years and years and years. And occasionally I'll think of a connection, something in Pokemon, and I'll go, "Oh, what's that about?" And I try to get round to actually answering what is that about. Sometimes I do not. Sometimes I can't. The evidence just isn't there. And one thing I wanted to know for a long, long time is in all of the Pokemon movies, there is a mother and her child. You might be familiar with it. It's a bit of an Easter egg. She's been in every film. Her and her daughter have been in every film since Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. I think they skipped one film. And it's the same mother and child get animated in. They've also been in, I think, in a couple of episodes of the series. And, this mum and her daughter are, like, stalking Ash and the gang on their adventure. And I've always wondered what that's about. And not only the logistical reason that the animators have as a little in-joke, but the in-world lore reason that could be. And one solution that I kind of came up with that doesn't really account for everything is that maybe it is the Latias from the Pokemon Heroes movie. Because I think at the end of that film, spoilers for the film that's like super old now, the Latios dies, but then a new Latios, I think, comes into being. But it's like a younger one. I'm not quite sure if that's correct. I can't quite remember. But in that film, Latias and Latios can transform into people. And that Latias was very taken with Ash. And Lucario and the Mystery of Mew is 2 films later, so you kind of skip Jirachi. And then after that point, it's always there. Following Ash around, and specifically appearing in an episode about Mega Evolution, a little special, Japanese special, specifically about the Latis. So that was kind of the only little bit of tangential connective evidence I could get. They can transform into people. It would make they have a motive to follow Ash around, but other than that, I got nothing. I got nothing.
I'm not sure how much I would be able to contribute to that because I actually haven't seen any movies past the Pokemon Forever.
Oh, you stopped at a good point.
Yeah.
That's a smart move. I do a monthly movie club with my friends Marty Bennett and Sarah B. Joe, and we've been going through and watching every single one. And yeah, Forever is a nice stopping point.
I've watched a couple of them for movies that I was familiar with, but I didn't bother going to watch the old Pokemon movies that I haven't seen yet. But yeah.
That means you missed the Arceus voiced by the same guy that does Shadow the Hedgehog.
I guess I did. Yeah, I had no idea.
Is that who it's voiced by?
Yeah, that's why Arceus sounds so weird and edgy. Because it's the same guy that voices Shadow the Hedgehog.
I thought Arceus was Dan Green, or am I wrong about that? No, Tom Wayland, who is Shadow the Hedgehog. I mean, there's a theory right there. Because because in Sonic, they're trying to create the ultimate life form, and Arceus... No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'll stop. Another podcast.
Did you have any others that you wanted to bring up?
Sure. I mean, I feel like, that one is as far as I've got with it.
Okay.
Other questions I had is why do the Castelia sewers connect to the Ruin Path in Generation 5 Black and White 2, which I had forgotten about and only discovered last week while playing. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This connects, and you've got Volcarona down here. There's a whole bunch of things.
Right,
Cycling Road, we've talked about the Pokemon War before, Lockstin, and you've got Saffron City in the center, and then you've got all of these other big metropolises around it, and they've got these kind of escape route tunnels, and if there's a Pokemon War, it makes sense to have quick underground escape routes to different population centers. And in the animated series, you've got the Cycling Road, which is actually like a bridge, and if you're looking at an invasion of Kanto, you've got Cinnabar Island, but like, what's there? A volcano. You're going to invade a volcano. Pallet Town, it's a small thing. If you wanted to get to the heart of Kanto, you would need to get into Vermilion Dock. And that might be the reason Cycling Road was built. I don't know. That may be a theory that's already been solved there. Mm-hmm. And then I guess I'll give you 2 more to kind of think about, which are why are there Rhydon statues everywhere? Was Rhydon thought to be a legendary Pokemon? What's that about? And the other one is that Mount Moon and Cerulean Cave are part of the same mountain range. And in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you find fossils in Cerulean Cave. You find the fossils in Mount Moon. Team Rocket are after the fossils in Red, Blue, and Yellow. There's connections to trying to find, in the movie, you can see a connection there to finding a Mew fossil. You can find Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. Why Cerulean Cave? So I think there's probably a big mystery there that's looking for a canon, a kind of story to connect it all. Yeah.
Those last two sound really good to me.
Oh, awesome.
Like, sets the bar
Yeah,
really high.
Did you have anything, Lockstin?
Well, I wanted to mention Toby and I called like a month or two ago, and he brought up a really good like Snorlax calories idea. Did you want to bring that one up? Because we talked about it.
You
and
go
we-
for
we-
it. You
we
go
couldn't-
for it.
We couldn't like flesh it out enough to justify a video, but like it's mentioned in the Pokedex that Snorlax eats 880 pounds a day, and there's another Pokedex entry for Alcremie that mentions that in its Gigantamax form, it shoots missiles that are 100,000 calories each. So, like, how many Alcremie missiles could a Snorlax eat in a day, or could a Snorlax just eat some Alcremie and sustain itself? Is like the question we would be going into, but like, there's not quite enough information there to flesh out a whole thing. But it's an idea, you know.
Certainly, actually, I mean, if you want to tie it into more of a theory perspective as well, Snorlax is quite rare in the regions that you find it, apart from really Galar, where you can find it, you know, usually in the same spot, but it keeps respawning, and you get the raid dens as well. And one of my theories for why Snorlax is so rare is that in order to maintain itself, it's got to eat X amount of calories a day or pounds a day. Perhaps Snorlax are cannibalistic, and that's why they're so rare, which is quite a, you know, thing. And when
I
their
remember
food,
watching that video.
right, yeah, and when their food
terrifying.
runs out in the mountains, they come down and they cause havoc and trouble in towns. Maybe in Galar, the reason they are so common is you've also got Gigantamax Alcremie, and so there's like this replenishing food source. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I have one that's actually in a similar vein, but it's a kind of more of a silly question. Can vegetarians eat grass-type Pokemon? Because there's kind of layers to that, right? There's certain grass-type Pokemon that are basically just plants, and then you
all the
have
flowers.
things like the berries on Tropius, for example. You know,
Okay.
or like, is that actually a plant, or is that an animal product?
I guess the question
So
really is,
vegans.
what is vegetarianism in the Pokemon world?
That's part of it, and also what are Pokemon in this kind of context, in this framework?
I remember seeing something from the Pokemon Company, like they were sent out to advertisers that mentioned like the rules of showing Pokemon stuff. And along things like Pokemon aren't allowed to be shown dead. They can't have X eyes. They always do the swirls.
Right.
One of them was that all the people are vegetarian. Like, which we know isn't completely true because
you
they're
could
shown
make the
eating
curry.
meat in the earlier, like.
But you could
there's
also
meat
in
and stuff.
in Sword and Shield, there's the curry that has the crabby bits in it, the
Right.
crabby claws.
And the old
I
anime
don't
also
think I've
has
gotten
them.
that one.
The old anime has them eat all sorts of like Magikarp and stuff.
Yeah, especially
But-
in the first season.
Yeah.
But I guess
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea was just that they don't like the idea of third parties coming up with, you know, they eat Ursaring or whatever. That'd be
Sure.
gross.
Yeah.
But that's worth bringing up with that idea.
I
is that
like
probably
this
most
theory.
probably most people in the Pokemon world are vegetarian.
Yeah.
I don't know that. So I like.
Maybe not in the Galar region.
Yeah, because you can make when you do the curry mixing, you can make crabby like a crabby curry, and it's very clearly Kingler's head or Krabby's head that's on the dish, which is super dark. So I think the answer to that is very much like, what do you view Pokemon as? And to me, they're like, if you've got, you know, people and animals are biological creatures, and then plants are biological, but they're obviously not the same as animals. Pokemon are like biology plus magic, and I don't know that the only point where that crosses over into them being vegetation is maybe when you have like a Pokemon that creates fruit, like Tropius. Pokemon are like more sentient than animals, so I kind of would assume that if you lived in the Pokemon world where, you know, after hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, where all the actual animals have been eaten and hunted by Pokemon, and been hunted and eaten by people, at some point, everyone has to be vegetarian or else they're eating Pokemon. And maybe Pokemon are just too sentient where people in the Pokemon world can't, or it's very much a taboo in the Pokemon world to do it. Because we know people do eat Pokemon artifacts, right? Like, I think Alcremie's Pokedex entries or Swirlix's Pokedex entries probably reference something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are Pokedex entries talking about Pokemon being hunted or eaten. So
Definitely.
it probably does happen, but it's probably a bit of a taboo.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far into that one,
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll slow down.
Lockstin, did you have any others? I have one more.
Recently I've been looking into what Deoxys is all about. It's a Henneguya salminicola, which is this amoeba that looks like an alien, like your classic gray head, big eyes alien.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to breathe, like at all. It just doesn't process oxygen or anything that would be considered breathing. And like Deoxys can live in space, so, you know, there's something. It's never really mentioned in the Pokedex or anything, but it's something that I'm looking into currently, and that's neat.
Yeah, I feel like they could be related for sure. Yeah, and my second idea is one that my longtime viewers will recognize, and that I think a lot of people have already talked about, but I don't know that anyone has come up with a satisfying conclusion. How do TMs work? In particular, because recently things were like complicated a little bit by the introduction of technical records that are vintage, and I think they are canonically made of vinyl. And so, like, how does all of that fit together?
I always liked the idea that it's just a video on you put the CD in a computer and it shows the Pokemon how to do it. And then in the old days, before video was a thing, it was just a record that would explain it through audio. But they were all those. Do you remember in like 2003 when Disney tried the whole you buy a DVD from them, but it would self-destruct in 3 days?
Yep.
No, I don't remember that at all.
I don't like.
It was a way so that you could
like.
you could like rent a movie and it would, you know, it would confirm
The disc
that,
would. Yeah, it would
confirm
start
you can
wearing
never
out.
watch it again. You buy a DVD with like a 1 or 2 time use. So it could be one of those because the company behind it is super greedy or something. But then some of them, HMs, are like super important, so they aren't the kind that self-destruct.
Right.
Uh-huh.
How's the chat
It's an
looking?
idea.
Yeah, so I thought I'd let you guys do all your theories before I go into the ones that the chat are suggesting,
Okay.
joke or otherwise. Um, so
Have they? Oh,
you scrolled away from the spot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize they were saving a spot.
Yeah.
Have they been reacting positively to our theories?
Sure.
Okay.
Hang on. Let's
Or
just
to our
catch-
ideas?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just catch up here a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna go past the person who's been long debunked. All right. And then, okay, so Wolf Gaming says, I have a theory that Hop is based on Toby. They look similar and seem to share some personality traits. Been thinking about it forever. Figured now is a good opportunity to throw that one out there.
Like the way you think. Yeah.
And then, some Cayman Pikachu says, can you talk about why maybe Game Freak abandoned a lot of Gen 2 designs they made, even though a good chunk of fans prefer these designs as opposed to what we ended up getting?
I feel like they probably go through hundreds of designs before they even put them in the game at all. And then from there, they narrow them down further. When you're a company that big, like in the Pokemon creating that I've been dabbling in lately, like it is actually a lot of work, and it's not all of them end up being as good as you originally intended. So being a major company that also has to consider way more than what any Pokemon artist has to consider, you know, because they have to worry about the like global perspective, marketing, culture stuff, how easily it can be made into a plush, what it sounds like in the anime, how it acts, and how its individual parts move in animation, both in 3D and 2D. These are things Fakemon artists don't have to think about, and
Yeah.
there's probably so many designs
And
that they get that
watching-
is one little animation thing that it won't work. It doesn't work as a Pokemon
Watching
because it's
your
weird.
videos as well, Lockstin, over the last 6 months, the amount of care that goes into creating the theming behind every Pokemon and their evolutionary lines and how they line up. Like, I was just watching your video on Blipbug and
That's my new favorite one.
It's so up to Orbital, right?
Yeah.
You think they didn't just draw a ladybug. They could use to maybe get away with that and go, okay, this is the ladybug Pokemon. But now it's this is the ladybug radar alien a radar creature that is based off of scientists, but also a bookworm nerd becoming a scientist, and it all ties into the lore of the region. It's no longer just a case of like, oh yeah, let's just draw that thing and get it out there. They gotta how do we tie in that theme to make one to make one Pokemon?
The best Pokemon designs have multiple inspirations layered on top of each other, and sometimes those layers don't work the best, and so designs get scrapped, and sometimes they don't realize that until designs are already coded into the game, or at least the beta version of it, and so they scrap them later.
Yeah.
You also got to think. I think with. I'm sorry to keep interrupting. I'm just fascinated by the subject. I'm so sorry. With Generation 1 and 2 in particular, Gen 1 was out. It was a finished product in 1996, right? They put that out into the world. They said, here's red and green version with your 151 Pokemon. And granted, they made refinements to those designs, little incremental things here and there and everywhere. But for the most part, the people who made that stuff, they're out watching it. And they're probably already thinking, this is pretty cool. We're probably going to make a sequel. All right, let's get started on design. And it was 4 years before, was it 4 or 5 before Gold and Silver came out? And that's a lot of time. There's probably a lot of Pokemon that ultimately they went, yeah, okay, we would love to do all of this, but we can't do all of this right now because they have more development time on those games, presumably, than any other.
Yeah. And I think...
And that's why you see a lot of... Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I think even the Gen 1 games still, they had a 6+ year development cycle. So... obviously they came up with a ton of ideas and wouldn't be able to use all of them with the limited cartridge space on the Game Boy. And yeah, at some point you just have to cut things or find a way to make it better. But you're not always going to find a way to make it better.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you see a lot of the scrapped Gen 2 ideas ended up becoming Pokemon, granted with the designs way re-refined much later. Like Caracosta.
Right.
I was watching a video by our friend True Green, who said that he used to see Milotic as a Pokemon with a big ugly buck tooth. And he said this is because when you look at the sprite art, there's where the head ends and where the kind of hair strand thing begins. And it's just white dead pixel space. But because of how it looks as a bit of pixel art, it looks like it has a buck tooth. And you got to think when they're designing these Pokemon as well, even though we might be able to see that design now and interpret that and go, oh yeah, I know what that is. I think people at the time with the hardware that you had, okay, this might be a really cool design, but we just can't get it right in sprite art. How do we know that everyone looking at this is going to have the same universal experience and know exactly that's the face, that's the mouth, that's the ears, that kind of thing?
I definitely
right?
had that problem a lot myself. There's a hiker sprite from Generation 1 where they have their arms their hand resting on their hips, and it's just a really big kind of burly arm. But as a kid, I always saw it as short, stubby arms with enormous hands, and
yes, I know what you mean.
And it wasn't until a year or two ago that I just somehow saw it differently, and I'm actually, it's big, burly, hairy arms. Oh, this makes so much more sense now. But yeah, it's just that they have that really limited real estate to display the Pokemon, to try to show all the detail that they can, and it's not always going to work.
That's why Pokemon designs got more and more complicated as time went on, because the technology allowed for it.
Yeah.
It allows for the details.
Okay, so going back to the chat here. So Kai Cyrus and fellow PokeTuber, the Rune Maniac Files, want to discuss Relic Passage. They are very
they like that idea. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Eric McNugget says, "This new Lockstin is making me feel things." All right, and
You're
then,
welcome.
Let's see. People were definitely talking a lot about eating Pokemon, and then there was one comment that was like, "Oh yeah, here we go." That's so Derek says, "Sentient enough not eat them, but not sentient enough to convince us to stop making them fight each other." Right?
Pokemon enjoy it.
Yeah.
They love it. It's sport.
Yeah, that's my approach to it as well. It's a sport, and that it would have had evolutionary advantage for the Pokemon as well to be willing to participate in something like this.
There's that line in the first movie where Mewtwo's like, "I've turned off the Pokemon's special abilities." And I made a video talking about this recently. It's, to me, when Pokemon fight, they're using their special abilities. When they use the move Bite, it's not so much like as we would bite someone. It's an attack that is responding to the Pokemon's like magical defenses because they're magical creatures. It's a battle. It's a magic battle, and the Pokemon are well equipped to deal with that kind of combat. And by channeling their energies, infinity energies, moves, whatever around them. And I'm pretty sure that's just what's going on. It's not real. That's not quite what's happening, I think.
Yeah, I prefer to think of it as I appreciate that idea is because of the movie and the way that Nurse Joy says something like, "Pokemon weren't meant to fight, not like this," and it's kind of ridiculous because Pokemon were meant to fight. But anyway,
Not like.
But what I think that is the way that I picture it is just that they're not actually hurting each other. It's kind of like when some wild animals fight for dominance in their group, for example. They fight just hard enough to assert that they are the winner, but they don't necessarily, or I mean, it depends on the species a little bit, but they don't necessarily hurt or leave long-term damage on their opponents. It's just kind of ritualistic kind of fighting, and so that's how I see it. And part of it is also you can't catch a Pokemon that you've fainted in the wild. You haven't shown restraint, right? You have to battle carefully if you want the Pokemon to join your team. If you're too reckless, the Pokemon is going to run away.
And some Pokemon you see in the anime when Ash caught Trico was like, "All right, but you're gonna have to fight me for the honor of catching me,"
Right?
Because Trico doesn't want to go with just any trainer. The Pokemon, the reason they put up resistance and fight like that is because they want to be caught, I think, by a trainer who is going to be able to train them well and is clearly strong enough to catch them, because that's the trainer that's going to help them evolve, because most evolved Pokemon don't live in the wild.
Yeah.
That's the other aspect of this, right? A Pokemon presumably would like to evolve, generally speaking. I don't know. And maybe that's part of that. You don't get Wild Venusaur, really. So most Bulbasaurs probably want to have trainers to help them with that.
Mm-hmm. I had something that I was going to respond with, and now it's just disappeared from my head. Maybe it'll come back.
Someone had a discussion topic, but now I can't find it here. A lot of people are in the comments about TMs are saying that TM stands for training montage.
Training montage. I'll give my kind of quick theory on the TMs that I haven't fully developed, but because Pokemon through the Pokeball technology and PC technology, Pokemon are turned into data. So the way I see it, and I think in some game there has been the TM case like attaches to the Pokeball. I think that has been mentioned in some game and just like an item description or something like that. It was very minor, but the way that I see it is that the TM basically overwrites the Pokemon's code to add this new move. So it's like a software disk that is updating the Pokemon's data in order to give them the ability to do this new move. So I don't know how the TRs would fit into that because they have to break and I think they have to be made out of vinyl. So that makes it difficult. But
that kind of throws a hole in everything.
Pokeballs have vinyl compatibility. I don't know. What do you want?
True Green 7 has also joined us, by the way.
Oh, hey.
Woo!
Hello, Ron.
Lockstin, you got... Sure, I was going to say, you got any thoughts on that, on the TR thing?
I was going to say, they probably would work similarly to the Neuro mods in Prey. I don't know if you ever played that. But, like, it's a futuristic sci-fi game, and the way you do upgrades is this machine, like, takes an atom-by-atom scan of your brain and then modifies it as if you had learned something. Like, it basically teaches you things then and there instantaneously by just moving atoms around in your brain as if you had learned something, like a before and after. TMs could work like that in the data weird stuff that goes on in all the Pokemon PC things.
Yeah.
Pokeballs are complicated.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Pokeballs are very complicated.
How?
I can't credit the person who commented, but it was that they were wondering what was going on inside the Pokeball. Yeah, that's another.
Yeah.
No one knows for sure.
No. And I think the anime has potentially a different approach. But I think that discussing the anime, we have to keep in mind a theory that Toby actually brought to my attention, that the anime is a cartoon of the Pokemon world. So not everything that's in the anime is like literally the way it works in the Pokemon world. And so when Ash says, "Go, Pidgeotto," and there's a note that comes out that says, "I'm sleeping," or "Gone fishing," or whatever it is. I don't remember what it says. But there's a note that comes out of the Pokeball, and Pidgeotto's nowhere to be seen. Like, to me, that's a cartoon.
Yeah, I think the more I think about that, the more I adhere to that. Because recently in Let's Go, I was in the game corner. And in the game corner, you've got Pokken and Pokemon Quest and a number of other spin-off games. And I was like, oh... yeah, if we assume that Pokemon canons can happen within other Pokemon canons, then that makes complete sense for Detective Pikachu. For the Pokemon animated series to be a cartoon that happens within the world of Detective Pikachu. Which is obviously reinforced by Pikachu singing the Pokemon theme song and crying, "I wanna be a baby." So that kind of worked for me.
And it probably exists within the canon of the games as well because of Generation 7. There's Mimikyu, who wants to be a Pikachu because of Pikachu's popularity. But also there's that very small, blurry photo, but that you can clearly tell is Ash and Pikachu in the background of the totem Mimikyu's little back room.
The only thing that massively throws a wrench in this, and maybe this is one actually, because I came up with a few theories at the time, and I don't think I still know what the correct one is that if the animated show is a canon that happens within Pokemon somewhere, then what is an Ash Greninja in the games? Because it's not a Red's Greninja, because it's called Ash Greninja, and its original trainer is Ash.
Right. You
could assume that there's another trainer out there called Ash, or that Red has Red's nickname is Ash.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's difficult because we don't even really know what Ash Greninja is. Period.
It's like a kind of Mega Evolution, but not really. Yeah.
True Green 7 says maybe the anime is a live action show in the game. Maybe explains the celebrity Pikachu and Ultra Sun and Moon.
I actually think that's
live action show.
pretty
Not
accurate.
necessarily cartoon, but
I think
So
I think
Ash Greninja in the Pokemon games then is just the Greninja that played Greninja in the.
yeah. Which
And it's
doesn't
just
necessarily
weird
tell us
Greninja.
what Ash Greninja is, but
but it's a great explanation. I love it.
yeah,
and
no, that's really good. That works
it
really well.
works.
You get Ron on the call here.
And I think it makes sense because you should. I think it makes sense because, yeah, like Ash may well be a cartoon representation of the character of Red, because I think the reason that Pikachu became famous 20 years ago, according to Mimikyu's kind of own stuff, is likely because there was this kid called Red showed up from Pallet Town, beat an evil organization, beat the Elite Four, beat the champion, completed the Pokedex, did it all with this Pikachu on his shoulder, kind of became a mascot, and then maybe, became the face of a animated TV show under the pseudonym Ash. And that's maybe where...
I think Ash would still be a fictionalized version of him and possibly played by a different actor, but...
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. But definitely the show is based on Red as a character, at the least, if not Red's journey specifically. Especially nowadays, because you can assume that Red never went to school in Alola.
Yeah.
And also, as Professor Oak plays himself in the show.
Oh, he would.
He would, though. Yeah, he absolutely would.
For sure.
Though I think you could assume that some events probably did happen pretty similarly. Obviously, then it's like, well, what about the Pokemon movies? And I think it's safe to assume that it's the same deal, right? That the Pokemon movies are also, canons that exist within canons. And with Professor Oak, obviously in the fourth movie, he went back in time and met Ash as a kid. Did he, in the real Pokemon canon, go back in time through Celebi and meet a young girl, meet Red, or go forward in time and meet Red or something? Because he's got, in his lab, he's got the notebook in Let's Go. He's got the notebook from the fourth movie.
Right, yeah.
So, maybe that
Based
event
on
really
real
did
events.
happen. And they were like, hey, Professor Oak, do you have any stories about Red when he was younger? Actually, I have this nuts one. You should turn this one into a movie. Yeah, maybe.
Everyone goes back in time and meets Ash and gets inspired by him in the past, don't they? Well, Ash goes back in time and inspires people that will then inspire him in the future. There's Oak and there's Kukui, at least.
Yeah. Teddy Bunker says that's why Red is in Detective Pikachu. Pikachu says they couldn't get Red's name and likeness, so they made their own character.
Yeah, that works. Makes
I
sense.
feel like they might still need to license his story. Yeah. Unless the two stories are actually just not completely different, but different enough that they feel they're not
inspired.
infringing on anything. Yeah.
A username who I'm not going to try to pronounce this, says, or a scientist named that Ash Greninja based on the superficial similarity to the character Ash. Then the show found out and decided to make a story out of it. But that still doesn't answer what Ash Greninja is.
Okay, so this might be nothing, but that might solve the mystery of why Red disappeared up Mount Silver between Gens 1 and 2 to avoid the fame and to escape the newly found international fame of being both kids seeing him on the street going, it's Ash Ketchum!
Yeah.
And then also he's taken down this evil organization, Pokemon researcher, and he's like, I just want to train my Pokemon. Thank you very much. I'm off. And that's it. And maybe that's why I like the idea that they had to, we need to build this character of Ash, not Red, to take some of the heat off. Who do we talk to about this? We got to interview some of the people that maybe met him. First 2 gym leaders. Tell us about this Ash character. Oh, cool. We'll make you characters. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh yeah, we totally went on the whole journey with him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we were actually there the whole time. Misty and Brock meet up to be like, yeah, we actually knew him really well. He's not here to argue. We know him really well. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Misty and Brock in this show would be fictionalized versions of themselves as well. Possibly played by them, but probably played by actors. You know, assuming they are actually responsible gym leaders and don't go out on a journey for years on end and actually stay there and, you know, do their jobs.
Sure.
But Professor Oak doesn't seem to have a problem with that, so what do I know?
I like that. I like the development of this whole thing. I like where
Me
this is
too,
going
me
to
too.
go. A little bit. It's good.
Yeah, and it can still, like, the kind of cartoony things that happen can still happen even if it's a live action show and not necessarily a cartoon.
Because it's a mildly fictionalized version.
Yeah,
of their
and
world.
maybe more of a comedy rather than I don't know what other genre it would fall into, but historical fiction.
So I've got a question for you then. In kind of with that, if you start discounting some of the more fanciful things that happen in the Pokemon world from the animated series as it's not really what happened. One of the things I've always wondered about is psychics in the Pokemon world. As a trainer class, do people actually possess psychic power? Is it the same as psychic types? Because obviously we see sprites of people levitating Pokeball, and in the DLC there's this character with the top hat who's kind of like juggling Pokeballs, presumably through psychic powers. Is that really happening, or do they just have an Abra under there, just under that top hat? Yeah.
Well, here's my take. I kind of go back and forth on this, so this is how I feel right now, but it may not be always what I think. But Pokemon have access to this magical power that is probably derived from from the infinity energy that, you know, everything has infinity energy, but Pokemon are able to use it more in order to use their attacks. Like, the way I see it, that's what their attacks are. It's just like different manifestations of infinity energy. And most people aren't in touch enough with themselves, with the natural world, whatever it is, in order to tap into that energy to that degree. So psychics might be able to have it a little bit, and, you know, they can levitate Pokeballs. They can't, you know, shoot a Psybeam, but, you know, they can do some party tricks.
Maybe they were just born with enough sort of midi-chlorians.
Right. Something like
because that's essentially what you're describing.
Yeah.
is that right? It's the
born
port,
with
right?
a
It's just-
slight X-Men mutation.
yeah, there we go.
Just in case anyone doesn't know,
I like
midichlorians are
that.
the microorganisms, I think, from Star Wars, and like the higher concentration of midichlorians in your cells, I think, is what gives you access to the Force and being able to do that. So everyone
Famously-
has kind of a baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're famously hated by actual Star Wars fans.
Right.
There's, but I think Doctor Who does it as well. Like Doctor Who talks about how, certainly in the David Tennant era, some characters are just more in tune with the kind of psychic field that's around the planet, and they use this. People who do this tend to have abilities where they can see things happening in other places. They can maybe see the future, the past, hear things, hear people's thoughts. And whenever something kind of a little bit freaky but not totally supernatural happens, that's what that is. It's just people more in tune, as you say, with the energies around them.
Right.
Yeah. That works. I like that. That's cool. I also like the idea that that character does genuinely have an Abra sitting in a top hat. I also love that idea, but yours does make sense.
A very well-trained Abra.
Yeah.
Anything from the chat? Anything that?
I mean, several things.
Okay.
I think to a degree, everyone kind of, or you guys kind of touched base on it, but I'll just read them comments. So, Ellie Grabenhorst says, would that be similar, like the energy you're talking about, similar to the aura as seen in the Lucario movie?
Yeah. So the way that I see it is that they are all the different kinds of energy in Pokemon: aura, Dynamax, Infinity Energy, Z Power.
It's all
I think that
essentially
they're
the
all the
same
same
thing.
thing. That they're all
Just being used in
ultimately the
different
same
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dragoon7 adds, like, Infinity Energy may just be the Pokemon version of Chi, Chakra, etc., and that humans have it too. Eric McNugget says something along those lines as well. Maybe human psychic energy is only capable of telekinesis while Pokemon create tangible energy out of it, just like you said. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes when someone says something, then
The chat
just
skips. Yeah.
fires right down. Okay.
Meanwhile, are there any other sides that we can look at this? Of this?
With the
Well, the chat was discussing, like, in terms of, you know, the anime being a show, like, actually in the Pokemon world, what the sort of YouTube, like, Pokemon Origins, I think, or the other one that I think is out now.
Origins and Generations and Twilight Wings now.
Yeah. What are they specifically?
They seem like they'd probably be more so attached to their reality.
Yeah, I mean, possibly that could be a more accurate depiction, or maybe they just don't exist within the games, and they just don't exist within the show, and they're just a different canon for us. The only reason we have to believe that the Ash's journeys might be is because some of the things that happens in those is a little bit more wild and ridiculous. And on top of that, you've got this Detective Pikachu. In Detective Pikachu, there's like 3 different points of evidence. You've got Detective Pikachu singing the theme song, Detective Pikachu getting on Tim Goodman's shoulder, and Tim being like, "No, we're not doing that." It's like, maybe it's a popular thing. You've got in Alola, Mimikyu being mad at Pikachu for being famous. You've got this famous celebrity Pikachu in Ultra Moon. You've got Tim Goodman collects Pokemon cards. So we again have that idea of canons in other canons. In Let's Go, you have some of the spin-off games. So there's lots of evidence to kind of suggest that the show, and the animated show specifically with Ash Ketchum, is, as you mentioned earlier, the stuff in Mimikyu's room as well. There's reasons to think that would be, but with something like Origins and Generations, it might just not be. It might just be a different telling for our viewing pleasure.
That they're documentaries or biographies.
Yeah,
that's what I would want to believe, I guess. I really like the idea that actually all of the Pokemon canons are somehow connected. That there's like a core canon, which is probably the games, even though that's really complicated because of all the different timelines. Well, we don't have to go into that, but like, let's say the games are the core canon, and then within that world, other things exist. There's, Pokemon Tournament. There's a feudal Japan version that is Pokemon Conquest. But like, I really like the idea that actually they are all connected. And so I would say that the YouTube shows are just more documentary. Although actually, thinking about it, which one was it? Was it, no, not Generations, Origins. Origins is the one that tells Red's story, right?
Yeah.
That one is a bit complicated because they use Mega Evolution. So it's kind of like a retelling of Red's story with Mega Evolution added in. It's possible that was actually Red's story. Sorry, did you say something, Lockstin?
It's probably just Red's story, but in the Mega timeline.
Yeah, that's one
those
thing.
Those are the two major timelines.
Yeah, that's one option, that it's just that's the same person's story just from a different timeline. Or maybe if Mega Evolution wasn't discovered or wasn't known in the Kanto region at the time, it could just be kind of a what if show. And those definitely exist, especially miniseries that are only, 4 episodes long of alternate history, I guess.
I definitely
Red
lean
had
more in the
Mega
direction
Evolution.
that the Detective Pikachu movie is the core canon. And my reasons for that is because I think a lot of the ideas about Pokemon canons within other canons existing seem to originate with that film. There's just a lot there in that movie. And if that is the more true to life one, that makes sense because it's the only live action depiction that is canon that I think we have at all. Like, I don't know if there's any trailers or anything else in Pokemon's history that like counts as canon where it's live action, but so I would probably be tempted to argue that. Difficulty there then is how do you explain the Detective Pikachu 3DS title? Which
Right.
is that in the same way we're talking about the show being the telling of Red's story, is Detective Pikachu the game the telling of the real life Tim Goodman who once saved Rhyme City but just spun a little bit differently? Is that what that is? I don't know. But
I'm
that
really
would be
curious to
my
see where they're
thinking.
going to go with the Detective Pikachu sequel that I think was
Mhm.
announced forever ago, and I haven't heard anything new about it. But because Detective Pikachu the game ends up so differently from the movie, I'm really interested to see where that goes, and maybe that would help resolve some questions there. But I like the games being the core canon because it just works on in a meta sense as well, right? The games are the primary
Source.
source. Yeah, exactly. So, and they are kind of like they do whatever they want a little bit. They change things between generations, but everything grows out of that anyway. And so maybe that also happens in an in-world sense. And Pokemon is
Sure.
very meta. They keep inserting, like they
Yeah.
insert themselves into almost every game, right? Like
Yeah.
you can talk to Masuda in every game, and so I feel like they would be aware of that enough.
You know, from a theory point of view, it's interesting. Something that's I don't think we talk about enough on YouTube because YouTube started with PokeTubing, and certainly when I started was 2015 or 16. So Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire had just come out. This idea of a multiverse and all that had just started, right? This is when this was all going down. This is when I started doing Pokemon Theories. Lockstin, you'd been doing Pokemon Theories for a year before, I think.
Roughly.
Maybe two. Um, so a lot of that was starting up for the first time, and people weren't talking massively about things like the timeline and yada yada yada. So we get this whole thing about like, oh, there's a multiverse, cool. Before Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire came out, no one thought about Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Fire Red, Leaf Green as alternate universes. They were retcon, right? And it's interesting that I think we've almost completely discarded the idea of the new games being retcons because of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Like, I think we assume that when Diamond and Pearl remakes come out, they'll be alternate universes. That just fits with the model that we all have in our head. But what if it's not? What if just every generation, Pokemon just retcons itself? And that's just it. They kind of did with Let's Go, right? They kind of just said, and we all go, oh, it's a parallel universe, because that also works. But maybe you end up thinking about it a little bit too much. Maybe you just go, you know what? If there's information in Sword and Shield that doesn't agree with, I don't know, Fire Red and Leaf Green, maybe it's just because that information isn't relevant anymore. Maybe it's just actually the only canon that we get to work with is current gen, and that's it. It's interesting. I don't know.
It does make
I
development a lot simpler.
thinking about it because I think that's probably how they think about it. I don't think they think about it in terms of like, parallel universe, timeline, characters this, characters that. I think they just sort of think,
Well,
this is
we've talked about this before, Toby, but I feel like the Delta episode multiverse explanation was a way for them to justify to us as the audience why they keep doing different things all the time.
Yeah.
Or why they were going to start doing different things all the time. So like that's just a justification. Like they didn't want to keep trying to build a continuous timeline. I think that's a bad idea. I would have preferred a continuous timeline.
Sure, yeah.
you know.
The problem is then you get suckers like us on the internet who are like, well, if it's alternate universes, then let's work out the mechanics of this multiverse. You know, like, come on, it's not good enough. We still want that consistency in world building, even in a multiverse sense. I mean, I know my channel's done it very recently with like well, this is this universe and then that universe, and everyone's talking about mega timelines, not mega timelines, whatever. You know, how many years exactly?
Timelines, Toby?
13 core timelines. Yes, 13 in the but like, you know, and everyone's got something that they're doing to kind of string it all together and weave it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because when your answer is multiverse, don't think about it too hard. You want to go, oh, don't challenge me. Like, I want to think about it. Yeah, like, this is what I want. Yeah.
Actually, Lockstin, have you done any of the timeline theories?
But years ago.
Oh, okay.
Nothing too recently.
Mm-hmm. I've probably seen it, but if it was years ago, I just don't remember it anymore.
Have you, Umbreon?
Well, I did one. It was before Sword and Shield came out, sometime in the Let's Go kind of cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But my theory was just there is no timeline anymore.
Yeah, because Mina ruins it all, right?
Yeah.
Mina ruined everything. One character made no sense, but yeah.
Well, Mina was more like the butterfly breaking the camel's back.
Sure.
You know, it's just there were a lot of other things that when I did my research, I found all these other things that were hinting towards that already. But yeah, in the end, I was like, I kind of give up. I'm still gonna do theories that look at multiple games because that's fun. That's what I want to do. But at the same time, there might not be anything there that was intended to be there necessarily.
And don't even get us started on Pokemon Masters.
No, yeah, I mean that happens in its own bubble for sure. There's just no world around it that doesn't. It's gonna be such a headache. I love it though.
Do either of you still play Pokemon Masters?
I know, but
Whenever there's a new update.
Yeah. Phoebe plays it more than me.
I played a lot for like 2-3 months when it first came out. I was playing it for probably hours a day. But at one point, I don't know, it became, I guess, too grindy at the time. And so I kind of dropped it. And when the next update came out, I just never picked it up again. But I still follow them on Twitter. So I keep seeing updates and being like, maybe I should try this again.
There's always stuff going on. Whenever there's a character that like I'm doing a theory on, I almost always now will check their Pokemon Masters entry because it's just free information, and they really go. And that's always been my favorite part of it. Is just like the stories of the characters that are like
Character development.
The day you know the day out with insert character name here. Because they grab information from like, here's a little bit of manga, here's a little bit of animated series, here's a little bit this and that the other. And so I think that's really, really fun. It's almost like Pokemon theorizing on a micro level.
Yeah.
Good. But yeah.
I've always liked the idea that the individual bits of character development are essentially canon, but them all meeting here on this island for sure is not, because time doesn't flow that way.
I think I read
like Leaf,
something about
aren't you supposed to be like 30 now?
Yeah. I think I read
some
something
people
about
mention
how they,
that they're old, but they're not. Sorry.
Pretty sure I read something about how they check that kind of like backstory stuff with Game Freak, maybe with the Pokemon Company. I don't know with which section of Pokemon, but they actually check that and like get it vetted and confirmed that, you know, maybe they didn't think about that at the time, but like it fits in with whatever idea they have for that character.
As far as I can see, there's nothing. I've never found anything that's exclusively new to Pokemon Masters, other than trainers that didn't previously have Mega Evolutions now having Mega Evolutions. Other than that, the information that exists about the characters is almost always, as far as I can tell, it exists somewhere in Pokemon lore. But it's sometimes the most obscure stuff. Like, when it came up with, like, Agatha and Oak, that's always been something that's massively interested me. I always thought exclusively it was a romance thing, but actually there's this whole element of them being on the same kind of research team and research lab when they were younger, and being part of the same kind of study group. And that's something that I was like, wow, did they make that up for Masters? Is that interesting? Oh no, it actually exists. It's part of the manga, and so they've kind of grabbed that from there. And so, like, the information is never, like, new, but it's always something that oh, wow, I didn't know that existed. Cool. Awesome.
There is one thing that Kai is pointing out in the chat. Silver has Ho-Oh. And
Silver
that seemed to
has-
come out of nowhere.
I did think it was a little weird.
1 second. Rainbow Wing. 1 second. Rainbow.
Yeah, like Silver, I would expect him
reset.
to either have one of the Johto starters, or maybe like Crobat. I feel like Crobat is his most iconic Pokemon because it's the one that evolves after he, realizes the error of his ways, kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm just going to point out before it gets too lost. Prima Diva is asking, hey, are there different Arceuses in all the Ultra Beasts in their dimension, or is it the same Arceus?
That gets really complicated.
That
it's
is
one
a
that I've been.
big question. That is a big
I
question.
don't even
I have-
know. Go on.
I have basically like a 40-page Google Doc that is just all of my notes regarding that, and just basically just Arceus as a whole and the whole creation trio and how they interact with everything, including the multiverse and all that. And it's so complicated and confusing that I decided, you know what, I'm just going to keep gathering notes and just wait until the Gen 4 remakes come out. Maybe gives us some more information, then I'll worry about making a
Definitely.
video out of it.
I'm sure
For
we'll get
sure,
more. with
Arceus
that.
is like a bound avatar of a creator rather than the creator itself, and there would be one for every multiverse
Right.
rather
I
than
think
it
the-
being the creator of the whole multiverse. You know?
The assumption is like that. I think, and I may be wrong about this, is that all of the Infinity Energy, Aura, Z, Crystal, whatever you want to call it, Gmax Energy, all of the energy that the magic that allows Pokemon to exist, was all in one kind of concentrated heat that once that kind of dispersed and created the universe and created stuff, what was left is you've got Arceus at the core of that, which is kind of this, like you say, avatar representation of that. I assume. I was just looking with Ho-Oh, and I think that the first thing that draws my mind to then is that the version of Silver that is appearing might be the version from Pokemon Silver version, because in that game you get the Rainbow Wing in Pewter City, and you get the Silver Wing as like part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the main character getting the Silver Wing, and maybe the rival getting the Rainbow Wing from Pewter City. Especially because you battle the rival, I think, in Mount Moon in those
Yes.
games.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, that's where you have the final rival battle.
Yeah. And their Golbats evolved into Crobat because they've kind of discovered the power of friendship, which is maybe why they were gifted the Rainbow Wing. I don't know, but
Yeah, it is possible that at some point after the events of Pokemon Silver, that like Silver, kind of fixes himself to the point where he is accepted by Ho-Oh and is allowed to go up the tower and all that kind of stuff.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that very much. Did anyone have anything? Because I know Romaniac said earlier, I'd love to talk more about this kind of the Ruin passage and the Castelia Castelia sewers. In Black and White, Castelia sewers don't exist, I don't think. And then come Pokemon Black and White 2, they did exist, but they were never accessible. There's this Ruin passage that connects Driftvale City to Castelia, which means it goes underneath the desert. What's that about?
Sergeant,
What's that about?
Before we go into that,
Uh-huh.
there's this particular comment that's come up now 3 times. So I'm guessing that I've been very bad about honing in on that one. So but I just kept missing it. Okay, so thoughts about the Zerub. I'm so very sorry that I basically ignored you. Thoughts about the Hoenn region, Delta series, and other types of Pokemon from the TCG, like Brave Forms, etc., as well as Shadow Pokemon and regions they appear in. Also, Team Go Rocket.
I think it just all fits in with our kind of sub canon idea.
Yeah.
That, you know, Pokemon or people within the Pokemon world coming up with the TCG would have been like, well, but what if, you know, this Pokemon was a different type? we can do that. We can put a card that has a Pokemon with a different type.
Yeah. I do have theories for both of these.
There's little blurbs for each new like pack or set that they come up with, and sometimes it's just it's its whole own canon, its whole own region, its whole own set of lore, and sometimes in the little like Pokedex entries in the bottoms of some of the cards, like it goes into more story and lore for the TCG universe that doesn't really apply to the games at all. But it's, like the TCG is its whole own thing also.
There's a really cool one that Pokemon actually told me about. They were like, this is the thing that we've put into the card game, which is in the set Shining Legends, there's a secret rare Mewtwo that's in an incubation chamber, and that's the artwork, and it looks really, really cool. And then in the recent set Unified Minds, there's the Mewtwo Mew card, and they're kind of like the artwork is them smashing forward to the front of the card, and there's little shards of water and glass around. And they were like, no, the story is it's that same Mewtwo from Shining Legends, like, breaking out of the glass tube, being rescued by Mew, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, they do some really interesting things with the TCG art and with the TCG canon, I guess.
Yeah. I have theories on like both of those things, but I feel really bad because I feel like I keep on speaking and I don't shut up. So I feel really bad, but like I do have theories on both of those if you would like them, or we can move on and try and create a new theory, and I'll you know. You can always check that out later.
I mean, we have been going for an hour now, and to a degree, I feel like we never really settled on what we were going to talk about. We kind of just settled just by talking about it eventually. But yeah, like we mostly focused on the idea of the multiple levels of canon, the sub canons, and is the anime actually a live action show? And I really enjoyed that. But I don't know if there's anything more that we can fit or that we can talk about in that theory. And if not, like if yes, I think we should try to explore it. But if not, then we can talk about whatever, or we can end here as well. I'd be down for either one.
I'm happy either way.
Yeah.
Entirely.
We really talked about Relic Passage, and Brewing Maniac does have some comments on that. So. All
right. Well, what can Ruin Maniac Files tell us about Relic Passage?
Okay. In my opinion, Relic Passage is like an emergency exit for the king of Relic Castle. Of course, my opinion is highly linked to my Galar Kalos Unova war theory, but I think it makes sense regardless. Castelia could be the center of the Unovan kingdom after the war. Castelia Castle,
like where they rebuilt, which makes total sense. And then that's why the old passageway, they were like, well, we don't need to go back to a desert. I guess we'll just sewers. There you go. That kind of works. I like that.
And the sewers could have actually. The sewers do kind of end with a kind of cave area, isn't it? You go into the sewers, and if you go deep enough before you come out at the Relic Passage, there's a bit of a transition. So like the sewers weren't necessarily all there. The sewers might have been built in that escape route, just because we already have tunnels. Let's just use them for the sewers.
Yeah. I've always wondered about Volcarona in that situation, and like because Volcarona is heralded like a legendary Pokemon, and it lives underground, which feels really weird for a giant sun moth thing. And like we've all heard the tale of like, oh, it replaced the sun when it went out, but like, what? Tell me more.
Yes, we have all heard that tale that ends there. There's nothing else.
It's not important.
Yeah. Is there anything where you would normally go into the sewers in Black and White 2? Is there anything there in the original Black and White?
Don't know off the top of my head. I don't think so.
I can't remember. Because it would make sense, or rather, it wouldn't make sense for them to have constructed the sewers in that time.
No.
So, the sewers presumably were always there, but...
Ruin Maniac is right that the city started from people coming out from the sewer area. Because I think there's a point in the sewers where if you come out, you end up in a little garden where there's this little grass patch that's in the shape of a Pokeball. And there's even a sign that said the city started here, or something to that effect. So that makes complete sense if the city was made like people leaving the ruin, creating Castelia.
Right.
That makes total sense.
That space is totally isolated from the rest of the city, right? The only way to get there is to go venturing in the sewers.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of gross.
Sounds like an adventure. Who knows what you'll discover?
Very cool. Very cool, though.
You could not access that area at all in Black and White 1 because they were
Yeah.
playing yesterday. So
Yeah. No, I know you can't access it. I was just curious if there was something there, like a manhole cover or, something like that to indicate that there is something here, even though it's not something that you can access. But yeah, I don't think there was.
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'd have to jump into the game and look.
Yeah.
Look myself to be sure.
That's a very specific thing.
It's a really fascinating space that I'm looking at an image of it, and it's literally just a tree patch of grass that exists within a square, and that's just really fascinating.
Yeah.
This forgotten bit of city that's overgrowing a little bit. I love it.
You can find just kind of regular urban Pokemon there, I think, like Patrat and Pidove. I don't think there's any special Pokemon that you can find in there.
Eevee.
Oh, you can find
Find
Eevee
Eevee.
in there. Oh.
Yeah, Eevee in there. I know that
Eevee
because
is a significant Pokemon.
yeah.
what does it mean?
Exactly.
What could it all mean? What could it all mean? It's... Eevee, Baneri, Skitty. Yeah, and then just other generic ones.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, I can run through those 2 quick theories about Shadow Pokemon and TCG stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
If you want, because I do have something
I'm
on
down.
those.
I'm
Someone
down.
earlier
I
was
love
like,
hearing
"Oh,
your
well,
beautiful
he
voice."
super, like,
I like hearing your beautiful voice, especially right now. I'm loving this deep Lockstin voice. I wish I had this. The TCG, specifically, people love those Delta cards, and the idea of a Pokemon becoming extra different types. In the lore, as you were saying, there's like lore about the TCG. The lore around that time is that there was this island where people were messing around with electromagnet and electro waves and that kind of thing, and it caused the Pokemon on the island's type to change. And I'm kind of the impression that genetically a Pokemon can be any type, but typically they're born with this certain set, and that's what makes an Onix or a Vulpix or whatever. And very rarely, maybe there's an alteration of that. And some Pokemon even have the ability to hack that genetic code, and that's where you get moves like abilities like Protean, or moves like Color Change, or moves that change the type of a Pokemon. Because Pokemon just all have the genetic ability to be any type. And specifically with that set of cards, you found a lot of Pokemon becoming part Metal type, as it's known in TCG, which is Steel type. And maybe that's just that these specific waves tended to activate those kinds of genes, but not always. Is kind of the
And that
idea.
actually fits in really well with my idea that all of Pokemon are ultimately the same Pokemon, that they have almost exactly the same genome, and that's where moves like Transform come from.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I mean, they're
it's just a
all
deeper
balls of
level
infinity
to
energy,
that,
right?
That would explain eggs and everything.
Yep. And you know how obvious, like you know how human beings, right? We've all got pretty similar DNA, and then there's just like a few things expressed differently changes radically how you look, behave, whatever. It's just like one bit of DNA expressing itself differently. I think I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, no,
that sounds right.
Percentage-wise, our DNA is almost identical.
It's all really, really similar, and then it's just like a few micro changes. You've essentially got that with Pokemon, right? They're just these balls of infinity energy with a couple things different gives you a Charmander. A couple things this way gives you a Sceptile, whatever the thing is. Humans are a banana, yeah. Yeah, and then the Shadow Pokemon one is there are Dark Pokemon in the TCG. There are Shadow Pokemon in Colosseum and XD and in Pokemon Go. There's Shadow Pokemon in Pokken. There's this item called the Rage Crown in the animated series, and it's all the same stuff. Shutting off a Pokemon's heart to bring out the power within Pokemon. Mega Evolution, Pokedex entries talk about how it can actually be quite distressing for the Pokemon. In one of the movies, the Volcanion one, you got this dude and he holds up a staff, and all of these Pokemon are like, they've got purple eyes, glowy aura. It's all the same stuff. And the reason for that is I think, and this might be an explanation for Ash Greninja, is all Pokemon, there is like an ultimate form of them. And it's maybe a Mega Evolution, and it's maybe Gigantamaxing. And maybe it's Ash Greninja is what that is for Greninja. There is an ultimate form out there that exists. And you've got, typically, people, especially evil teams, try and alter a Pokemon, because the easiest way to do it is, oh, well, if we know it's got something to do with increased aggression, cool. And that's the route they go. And that's maybe even the opposite route to what you should go. And you create Dark Pokemon, Shadow Pokemon, and Mewtwo may even be part of that. Like, being rageful might just be part of Mewtwo's makeup, and that's where you get the Berserk gene from in the game. The Argas in Detective Pikachu, which again does the exact same stuff. It's shadow eyes and shadow auras. And so I've always adopted this idea that that organizations like Team Rocket, Team Snag'em, which may well be the same organization with a different face, what they're trying to achieve is that ultimate form of a Pokemon, but they're going about it the wrong way. And perhaps what Ash Greninja represents is the only example we've seen of it going the right way, which is the thing that the show loves to preach, which is, it's about love and teamwork and friendship. Yeah! And that's how you get the ultimate Pokemon, but that's a lot of work. And so instead, we'll use science and, and that's kind of what I've always thought.
It makes perfect sense.
Makes sense to me.
Works for me.
You can throw
makes sense for me.
Pokemon into it too.
Yeah. Kind of brings what Pokemon into it?
The breaks from the TCG XY.
Yeah, the gold ones.
Yeah. I actually don't know almost anything about those, or Delta species for that matter, because I was I was away from the TCG for like 3 generations, so.
Delta species.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Then I know it.
Ruining Maniacs is like, oh, Charizard has 20 ultimate forms.
Yeah. And Gengar somehow is the runner-up.
Gengar's really popular too.
Mega Evolution, Gigantamax.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, Charizard has 2 Mega Evolutions and Gigantamax, so Gengar and Mewtwo are the ones that are 1 down from there with 2 forms.
Is Gengar the only one that's a Gigantamax that also has a Mega, like Charizard?
Yep.
Although Blastoise and Venusaur are soon to join. Yeah. And Slowbro as well. Slowbro will team up with that, because there's Mega Slowbro. And we've obviously got, with the DLCs...
Have a Gigantamax?
Oh no, it's a regional variant!
Yeah.
But don't.
And it probably won't have a Mega for the regional variant.
No, sure not. Gengar, I don't know if you noticed, in the Festival Plaza on the 3DS, the building that it.
Oh yeah.
There's the building that looks like a Gengar, and that's what Gigantamax Gengar looks like.
Yep.
Oh
It's
man.
just that same building. The weird little Easter egg that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I actually really like the design of Gigantamax Gengar. It's one of the few that I really like. Yeah.
Yeah, boys,
I have to look at that building again.
Oh yeah, check it. Just type in Festival Plaza, you'll see it, and then when you see it, you can't unsee it. You're like,
Oh yeah.
oh.
There you go.
That's what that is. Cool. Yeah, you can find out about Easter eggs and trivia like that over on YouTube.com Anytime.
What's with the Master Ball in Gigantamax Garbodor?
Is that?
Well, yeah, I
Like,
don't know
do
if there's
people
any
just throw away their
specific
Master Balls?
significance to it, but Gigantamax Garbodor has a bunch of toys on it, right? And they're all. Someone on Twitter said that they're all from N's room, from the Team Plasma Castle. So there's a boat, there's a train, and they're all toys. And I struggled with that idea. Like, why are they enormous toys? But
There's
Someone
some
threw out a
weird
bunch of
stuff there. There's like a Magikarp that's its skeleton but with a tail.
You can see
There's-
the trying to form.
yeah,
There's the boat is the SSN sprite from Yellow, but with a wind up thing in it. Yeah, Pokédoll, a plane that looks like one of the planes from Black and White 2 as well. So yeah, it's very possible this all ends bedroom. But why the Master Ball, eh?
yeah. Did N have a Master Ball? I don't think so.
Is he the one who gives?
No, but, and maybe this is the creating Pokemon Theory live on stream, I might even want to do this on my channel someday. Master Balls are all owned by either scientists or evil team. I don't think there's an
It's
exception to
wrong to use them, so they're
It's-
trash.
that. It's not so much, that's not quite where I was going with it, but they are, I think they were intended to be commercial, and that's why in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you see like a poster that has all the Pokeball types on it. And I think people know about the Master Ball as a bit of like, as a bit of general trivia, and they do tend to be rewarded to champions of regions. So maybe only the Master Ball is a symbol of like status, but because they can only be distributed by scientists who are using them for research purposes. Or they're found in evil team bases, and obviously N is from an evil team base, right? He's from Team Plasma's castle, so maybe Gmax Garbodor canonically is a Garbodor, or are all Trubbish that have come from N's from that part of Unova, you know, or at least the one that this model representation is based off is that.
Maybe she has connections to N.
Does N ever have a Trubbish? N?
I think he
Pokemon?
does.
I mean, what more do you want? What more do you want, people? That's a Pokemon theory. Okay? That's a 10-minute 3-ad Pokemon theory. What more do you want? That's exactly where I'm going with that. No, wait. Does he ever...
There's definitely something there, because that is
Trubbish?
where Trubbish are from.
Yeah,
originally.
from Unova, right? That's, I mean... I actually
Also, it
don't
has to be
see
a
N
very-
having a Trubbish.
It has to be a very special Garbodor, because, like, all of the other Gigantamax are either brand new Pokemon or Gen 1 Pokemon. And
Yeah.
then there's Garbodor. Like,
Yeah.
also, do you guys say
Garbodor is
Garbodor or
the-
Garbodor?
Garbodor, typically, but you guys have been saying Garbodor, so I rolled with it.
Garbodor's technically right, but I can never keep a straight face saying it.
Garbodor.
I don't
N
really-
did not have one.
I don't think he ever had a Garbodor. Did he not have a Trubbish though?
No, I thought he did, but I'm not seeing it. And
Does
Getsus?
Getsus have one? Yeah.
I think so.
Gano in the comments is saying that Elena is N's biological mother because they were both in poverty before, and that she. Sorry, the comments. Now I lost it. had to leave and went on a journey to find her after Black and White. There you go.
I don't know if
Maybe.
there's very much there, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think the possibility certainly exists.
I mean,
But what does that
ultimately,
mean?
the more likely thing is, Elena is a member of an evil organization. Of course, there's a Master Ball. They have one. They're an evil organization. Basically, every evil organization has one. They're found in Magma Aqua bases, Galactic base. Team Plasma does not have one, I don't think. I might be wrong about that. Team
And they're just
Flare. I don't know
so
where you get the
rich
Master Ball.
that they can just throw them out.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's a Magnolia, right? Who gives you the Master Ball in Sword and Shield?
Yeah.
Well, Magnolia worked with Rose and Oleana. Like
There
they
you
were
go.
working. They were working together to develop all kinds of things. So potentially, Oleana had a Master Ball, because of that collaboration.
Yeah. You in the games, you always get the Master Ball with all the list is Silphco. Makes sense, they made it. Professor Elm, Magma Aqua Hideout, Silphco, Agate Village in Colosseum and XD, which kind of makes sense because he is almost the professor of the region. And actually, in XD, you get it from Professor Crane, who didn't exist in Colosseum. So they work as professors. Team Galactic headquarters, Juniper, or in Castelia City Pokemon Center from a man in black for having Pokemon from 50 different original trainers. Interesting.
And actually, now that you mentioned that, speaking of original trainers, the lottery, the daily ID lottery,
You can get it from the
give out
lottery.
the Master Balls.
So they clearly exist as something in the public, but they've got to be a sign of specifically status. Actually, Black and White 2, Colrus, Pokeball Factory in XY,
Naturally.
Eighth of Paradise, again, that's an evil team, Gladion, and then Postwick from Magnolia, which is a researcher. So, yeah, the only exceptions to evil team or professor is this dude, mysterious man in wearing black, and ID lottery. Those are your options. Yeah.
There's something.
I had never heard of this guy before. Who is this guy?
He's just a dude. Just a dude. Oh! Or, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, in Cerulean Cave.
Right, and you can find extras there. You can find like 6 of them or something.
Interesting. That's got to be Mewtwo Giovanni related, though.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. There's no way that's not.
Yeah.
This was from a while ago, but Prima Diva had asked earlier, what are animals in the Pokemon world? Which you have a video on that, but
Yeah, that's a different area entirely.
Yeah,
and
this is
if
from a while
you
ago.
want to go there, I'm all down to talk about how animals fit in. But
I always felt like it was just originally, there weren't as many Pokemon in Gen 1, so they had to have some filler. And that's why in later generations they stopped showing them and stopped mentioning them in Pokedexes.
almost,
But
though,
almost?
because
Are there still exceptions
there
more
is
recently?
one exception that the Indian elephant is still mentioned in Raichu's Pokedex entry in Sun.
Yeah.
Like the new it's a new entry as opposed to reusing it.
Well, I mean, it's for Cantonian Raichu. That one, the information I think is reused, but it's still there. Whereas for a lot of Pokemon, they did write entirely new entries. So, yeah, like I feel like there has to be a reason for that to be in there. I've seen other theories, like other approaches to it, but for me, there's the in-world reason is that maybe no one alive now knows what an Indian elephant is, but in the past, people knew. because we also have the Pokemon categories with like the dog Pokemon, the cat Pokemon. So those Pokemon are clearly being compared to something else.
Non-magical creatures.
I mean, but they got eaten. Like that's always been my approach. They got eaten.
Pokemon
They got
are
that
just
eaten.
incredibly well adapted and incredibly adaptable. So
Yeah.
whenever it is that that Pokemon came onto the scene, they would have easily outcompeted the real animals and just kind of taken up every niche.
The question really is though, if animals were being referenced, relatively frequently in Gen 1, not so much Gen 2, a little bit less in Gen 3, and so on and so forth, what's happened in the last 20 years? Why now and why not 300 years ago? Did Pokemon just show up 20 years ago?
No, I don't think it would have been that recent. I think it would have and it wouldn't have been a complete 100% takeover in the span of 20 years. It would have been like probably a Pokemon takes over one niche over here, and then it slowly diversifies into a different niche in the same ecosystem, et cetera, and eventually it just kind of it's everywhere. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of how much time has passed. And so in Gen 1, there are still flies, I think, and like regular fish that show up in the anime. And,
deer.
That kind of thing. So people might like still know what they are. People still know what a fish is. And it's just like, okay, this is the fish Pokemon because it's a Pokemon that looks like a fish even though they're not actually related. In the same way that we have a bullfrog that isn't a bull.
Right, sure.
Actually, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it's kind of relevant to this, is Pokemon Ultra Moon. This is a Lapras Pokedex entry. In Red, Blue, and Yellow, they were talking about how Lapras is close to extinction. 20 years later, Ultra and Ultra Moon, or 10 years, depending on how long you think time, whatever. They've been so cherished that there is now an overabundance. In a short period of time, population has gone from near extinction to overabundance. The fish Pokemon population has declined in waters with too many Lapras. So not even the fish Pokemon. And so it's interesting to see that clearly ecosystems in this world are radical. And also, Pokemon definitely eat each other.
Yes.
There you go.
That's actually something I really appreciate about the newer Dex entries, because in Gen 1 they talked a lot about Pokemon eating each other and hunting and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of disappeared for several generations, but in Gen 7 and 8 it came back. And it just makes the world feel way more real, way more alive.
Yeah.
Palette University asks, if that's the case, where's the fossil evidence for these regular animals?
Where's the fossil evidence for anything, really? We only have
I can
really
tell
go
you.
deep into 'em.
less than 20 fossil Pokemon. Fossils, period.
1 second. Animals in Pokemon. I can tell you exactly where the fossil evidence for animals in Pokemon are. They are in the Pewter Museum. They are in the card game.
But is there's no real animal fossils that's in Pewter Museum. It's a Kabuto and Aerodactyl and such.
I might be thinking specifically in the animated series, which we've already agreed is a cartoon. But there is a statue of a Kabutops. There's actually a fossil of a Kabutops digging into the fossils of a fish, which doesn't look like any Pokemon that we know of so far. Though, interestingly, it's really weird. The full display is a statue of a Kabutops with its sides in a fish. And then the small display is a little tiny plaque that is the actual fossil. But that can't be the actual fossil, so... Maybe the fossil is elsewhere, and then you could only get a picture for this museum. I don't know. But...
we don't really have... Yeah, we don't have fossil evidence. And... To be fair, we just don't really have any, physical evidence, really. We only have circumstantial evidence, which is a problem, but it's mostly what we have to work with in Pokemon Theories, period.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we wouldn't really have fossil evidence of the transition from animals to Pokemon necessarily, because it did happen relatively recently, like in the last few thousand years kind of thing.
Do you think animals became Pokemon?
No, I think they were
Right.
outcompeted by Pokemon. So
Yes, I think
they
they're
were
separate.
replaced by Pokemon, but they didn't necessarily evolve into Pokemon.
Yeah.
We're having a little
I
bit
got-
of trouble with the Wi-Fi
The
on
chat.
the
Oh.
laptop that we're using for chat, just to see the chat, but it just keeps disconnecting. This computer seems to be doing fine. So just we apologize if we miss your message, because where we're looking at the chat, it's going in and out for some reason. But
I mean,
The
I-
recent
yeah, that's
Oh, go on.
the recent loss of animals might be explained by like population explosions. Like if you look at the charts of for human population over the course of the last forever, just the last 100 years, we just exponentially exploded because of the Industrial Revolution. There might be something like that with the invention of Pokeballs, leading to an increased popularity of Pokemon and their relation with humans. And then because all of the reality of the Pokemon world is created by or maintained by unknown, there may be some sort of reference to a collective subconscious. People want more Pokemon, unknown create more Pokemon, Pokemon overpower the animals start dying out.
Totally possible. Additionally, and we've talked about it earlier in this podcast, if there was a big war, at the beginning of our Pokemon games, that's the kind of thing where maybe if humans are warring, they're using Pokemon, animals and ecosystems are collateral to that. And, Pokemon can bounce back because they got superpowers, but animals not. But yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
And that would also explain, I think it's Clink or Clinkling. One of them, their Pokedex entry mentions that they just appeared during the Industrial Revolution. So, like, suddenly gears are being used everywhere because technology is advancing, and then there's a gear Pokemon, just all of a sudden, which goes into, I forget what they're called. It's a Japanese concept where, like, if a tool gets used long enough and has enough, like, human soul put into it, it'll become alive. It's part that, but that also might just be explained by human collective subconscious and the unknown getting involved. It's like, oh, people really like these gears. Let's make one a Pokemon.
That actually
Kind
makes
of
a
thing.
lot of sense. That does. Because Pokemon's kind of big on that. I think it's animism. That's not the Japanese term. That's kind of a more, I guess, Western term.
I think it means the
Animism.
same thing, or roughly the same
Yeah,
thing.
Toy Story type thing. They've got Pokemon like Banette and Mimikyu, Voltorb. They all kind of embody that idea. And you could then think of legendary Pokemon, like you think about the creation of Raikou and Suicune, and that's Ho-Oh related, but also Unknown related in terms of Crystal version. I like this idea that, people are using gears. We're the Unknown. We're the curators of this universe. We'll create gear Pokemon. But then maybe in these big tragic moments, it's legendary Pokemon are less so people really like fire dogs, let's make some of those. And more, this is the collective emotion of these people in this area, and the Unknown kind of personify and actualize these ideas that people have about the flames of the tower and the water of the rain and the lightning bolt, and they personify it all together, and it's kind of a bit more mind meshy than that. It's a bit more... and that ties in with what we were saying earlier about psychic people who are psychic. And you kind of, if there's this big traumatic event or this big epic event or something, a Pokemon can end up kind of being created from that, because that's people's collective consciousnesses, as you said, coming
Enough
together.
people
to
are
make a
feeling a thing all at once.
Yeah.
It starts getting
And that
involved.
really fits in with what Pokemon's about. A lot of Pokemon are, these kaijus, these forces of nature come to life, these personifications of ideas, and rather than necessarily the ones that are, it's a sheep, it's a sheep, it's a ladybug, it's a whatever. Yeah.
It's definitely Just a lot of stuff there. That's one thing I've been collecting notes for also. But I just don't feel like I have quite enough to make it a video just yet. But speaking of the psychic humans and stuff, I got a video about that coming out this Saturday. Promotion. Ha!
Can't wait.
Did we
I like-
did we talk about what you're
Did we just-
over already?
No, it doesn't like go super deep anyway. But
I like that you can sort of. I think the beautiful thing about Pokemon Theories is they allow you. They act as a window to interpret the Pokemon world kind of however you want, and there was a time that I really cared about timelines and the canon and that kind of thing. Whereas nowadays, I'm into things like Spirited Away and these kind of A Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker I've always loved, and like things like that, where they tell these stories about ideas personified into creatures and deities and stuff. And I think I'm maybe a little bit more interested in those kind of stories as opposed to the stories that are like, this is actually how this Pokemon actually exists as a physical thing. And you can just pick and choose the theories you like to read Pokemon and play Pokemon however you interpret it, and just take the ones that you like that make sense to you.
Yeah. Well, is there anything new in the chat that we missed before that we can that we want to cover?
I just gotta catch up here because we were offline for a bit.
Our chat, that is.
Oh yeah, I was offline. Let's see.
Yeah.
Conveniently, someone was spamming the chat
Yeah.
while we were offline.
it's how it always goes.
Well, even if we don't quite end here, I do want to say thank you both of you for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's do it again sometime. This is great.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
get my mic fixed by then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the chat's talking about potential like regions.
Yeah.
Like future regions.
Yeah.
There's so many places that would be really, really cool to go. Mostly, my hope for the next generation is that it isn't Europe or North America or Japan, but like somewhere else in Asia.
Just something
would be
new.
okay.
I think it's
super different.
Ruin Maniac Files is like, it's Greece. It's going to be Greece. And I don't know why I'm really inclined to believe him on that, because I feel...
Well, because it'll follow the Gen 4 remakes, and Spear Pillar is all Greek ruins.
I guess.
So like it'll do something, maybe.
It'll do something.
Flow into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see a region based in a part of Brazil, or,
Australia.
Australia.
New Zealand is like already a Pokemon region.
There are so many places in Africa that could work really well.
Yeah. Africa would be really cool because I think Africa is the only continent that has had no part of it referenced by name in the Pokemon world. This is like a weird bit of Pokemon world trivia. Is that we've had bits of India reference Indian elephant. We've had China, Asia. We've had North America, Guyana. All sorts have been referenced, but I don't think by name any location within Africa, real world Africa, has been referenced, and so that would be cool to see because it would be totally new. It would be entirely new.
Yeah, not in a game, but I do have a giraffe rig card that mentions Africa in the flavor text at the bottom from way back in
That's
Generation
news
2.
to me. That's cool. That's news to me. I love that.
Yeah.
There was a very nice comment earlier. I just spotted here. Dark Lord Philip says, "I'm a big fan for all of you four. Thank you all for the awesome content."
Thank you for watching it.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you. Putting up with it.
Your time and your attention are very, very valuable resources, and I think I speak for all of us and for all creators that you follow. thank you for spending them on us.
Yeah. I'm looking for this Giraffary card now. I'm like, oh, I've got to see this. I got to know what this is about. Giraffary TCG.
Well, I hope I'm not misremembering because it's a really old card.
No, you're probably not. You're probably not.
It's gonna be in there somewhere, but there's I don't know which of those 3 boxes it's gonna be in.
Okay. Do you think
wanna know
that
something
any of
really
the post
sad?
games could happen years after the main story?
So, what were you saying, Lockstin?
Real quick to fill what was silence at the time. Something really sad is that Lickitung can't use lick on each other. Could you imagine that existence?
Why
Being
can't
a
they?
Lickitung, your whole because lick's the ghost type move.
Oh.
So they can't. That's what they're all about, but they can't lick each other.
Wasn't Lickitung even incapable of using lick in Generation 1?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I've actually just come up with a theory for Lickitung, because here's a video idea. I'm doing a theory about a Pokemon theory for each of the first 151 Pokemon. And this is to say, not so much individual like every single one, 151 theories, but it's about 60-something theories covering every evolutionary line. And I got to Lickitung, and I was like, I got nothing. And I took one look at it, and I'm so impressed with myself. I was like, the reason its tongue is shorter as a licky and it evolves because of rollout is because its tongue is receding inside its own body, wrapping around itself, making it fatter. And that's where it learns rollout, and that's when it becomes licky because its tongue's shorter and its body is rounder.
Like a hose reel. You pull it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally that's what's going on. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, Lickitung. Cool. Adding that into the video. I'm so happy. It's the kind of theory that I could not do in a video by itself because it's a 30-second video. But it's like, cool.
So what was the thing that was mentioned earlier?
Yeah, what was the comment that you said?
No, I can't remember. Sorry.
Sorry.
Do you think that the post games could happen years after the main story?
Oh, right, yeah. I don't see any implication that they do. I can't think of any evidence that they do.
What, these upcoming ones? No, I don't think so.
Oh, the DLC as well, yeah, no. The DLC is going to be really tricky to fit into timelines, or to like a timeline of Sword and Shield, because it's going to completely depend on your experience, right? If you've already completed the game, those events happen after you're champion. If you just got there, or like if you just got the game and just starting to play through, you're allowed to go and do the Isle of Armor in Crown Tundra at much earlier points in the story. I don't remember exactly what it is, but
Did they already say what the prerequisite is for getting to him?
They did say it. I don't remember quite what it is, but it might just be like you've arrived at the...
I remember it has to do with that Slowpoke, but...
Yeah, because with the Isle of Armor, I just saw someone do this today. With the Isle of Armor, you go back to Postwick Station after leaving, and the Slowpoke shows up and they're like, yep, the train's ready. So I think you can do that at any point. But I'm going to suspect that the Crown Tundra is going to be a post-game situation. And my reason for that is because there's a character who's the like ice hiker bloke who looks a lot like Chairman Rose, and there's no way their stories aren't related and tied in, and I don't think you could do that with the character before the end of the game. But maybe I'm wrong. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry to do this to you, Toby, but I don't really see that much of a resemblance.
Do you actually not?
Well, they vaguely look alike. I don't think they look so much alike that I would bank on them being related. But...
Nah, he's nuts. Hang on, I gotta get this up. Where are we at? I know no one listening to the podcast can see this, and we're not gonna put it up on screen. But Pokemon Sword and Shield Isle.
Oh, I can kind of see it, but
if you put their faces next to each other,
I found an image that's doing exactly that.
Right.
Let me put it in here.
Okay, yeah. All right, okay.
Maybe,
all right. I mean, I'm just
maybe
gonna
a
look
relative.
at this.
They have the right color eyes.
They
The
have
hair-
the exact
The
same
hair's
shape.
just more
of,
shaved.
They have the exact same shape of mustache, which I know is not a genetic thing. But like literally, if you just cut the new guy's mustache like here, it's Rose's mustache. They've got the same color eyes. They've got the same hair at the sides, except this guy's clearly shaved the rest of his head. He's less pretty boy. They're the same! They're the same! There's no way you create two characters that look that similar in the same game if they're not related. You just... Nah. I'll fight you on that.
I can't think of any specific examples, but I feel like that's happened before. Like Wally and N, I'm pretty sure I've heard people talking about how they must be related or something like that, and they do have several qualities they look alike, but there's never been anything connecting them.
Anne. Is that, what, from the Battle Tower?
Oh, N.
Sorry. N and Wally. But N and Wally aren't in the same game.
No, they're not in the same game, but I'm just saying, like, that's... like I said, I can't think of a specific example, but, you know, I've seen people talking about characters that, oh, they must be related because they look so similar, and then nothing came of it. Which doesn't mean they're not related, it just means they're not. The canon hasn't confirmed it, so...
Sure, yeah. I do see the resemblance between Wally and N, though. But, yeah. That's cool. Huh. Trying to think who else has done that. N looks like a bunch of characters, though, doesn't he? Like, I'm pretty sure...
He's actually a Zoroark.
He's actually a Zoroark, that's it. Which is a theory I'm a little bit more subscribed to. I got a question for you. How much more time do we kind of have?
Well, I wasn't expecting us to be going this long. But I mean, we still have a really good, like, our viewership has stayed pretty solid throughout this entire time. So if you want to present something new, by all means.
Well, I do have to go pretty soon, but
it's quite late for you at this point, isn't it?
It is. I have other stuff as well. I promised I'd get involved with. I really would like to do. But I wanted to ask you kind of, I guess, two questions. Number one, what makes a perfect Pokemon theory for you? And number two, what is the most ridiculous Pokemon theory you've come up with that you know is no way true, but you love it anyway? Those are my two things for you. Either or.
Those are really good questions. Well, I think a perfect Pokemon theory would just be one that has a significant amount of evidence supporting it and no evidence against it. Not even like something from the anime that you can kind of ignore. I don't think I've ever come up with a perfect Pokemon theory by that standard, like, because I specifically concentrate on the games. And, you know, if there's something from the anime that supports it, I might mention it. But for the most part, I'm not looking at the anime.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think that would be the perfect one. And especially if you can build in things from multiple canons, from multiple games, that kind of thing. But that's really difficult because the Pokemon games don't really give us that much.
Yeah.
The most ridiculous one?
I'm a big fan of the Slowpoke is omniscient theory. I covered that one like my second year of doing YouTube.
Yeah,
the one where like Slowpoke is just so stupid and dumbfounded because it's so powerful. Its mind is like out in the universe somewhere.
Right.
And then when the shoulder bites onto its tail, the pain like shocks it a little more awake, but not quite. But if the shoulder bites onto its head, like that toxic venom's getting into its brain, which like brings it back to reality, which is why Slowking is so intelligent.
Yeah, I like that.
Slowpoke is always just as intelligent. It's just its head mind space is psychically out somewhere else.
I think my most ridiculous theory would be that the creator gods of the Pokemon universe are the avatars of the Game Freak people.
Yeah,
that like instead of it's not Arceus that's the creator. It's not the unknown that's the creator. It's Masuda and Omori and so on, whoever you can find in that game.
In one of the games, you talk to him and he says like, "Hi, I drew you."
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
There's all kinds of things like that, and it's just, I don't think that was intentional, that they intended, these characters are secretly the creator gods of this universe, but it's just one of those things that we're reading too much into it, but it's fun anyway.
yeah, I like stuff like that. For me, my favorite one, and it's one that I came up with, is it's this super niche video that like no one's seen. That is about Team Rocket and Team Snag'em being related. They're the same for reasons that I mentioned earlier in this podcast, with this wanting to get Shadow Pokemon, catching trainers Pokemon, and the tangential link of all of this is Professor Namba from the TV show, who created the Rage Crowns. Only appears twice in the Hoenn and Sinnoh arcs, and three times, and two of those is to get a Delcatty and a Love Disc, and the main Snag'em scientist who creates Shadow Lugia has a Shadow Delcatty and a Love Disc, and Lugia is the Pokemon that Namba was after, and it's the most you're connecting a main series game with the spin-off games through a character who appears in a few episodes of the animated series, specifically around theories resulting in Pokemon Chronicles, and I loved that everything made sense about it. And clearly no one at Game Freak has sat down and gone, so this is the character. This is
right, yeah. So, again, thank you, both of you, very much for joining me here today, Toby and Lockstin. This was a lot of fun and went on about twice as long as I was expecting it to, which I think is a good thing in this particular case.
Editing!
Yeah. But yeah, so also thank you everyone who showed up to watch and to help us out with the theories and with just chatting. I think this wouldn't have been the same without you here, so thank you so much. I would really like to hear from you guys in the chat and in the comments, or you can tweet at me later if you prefer, what you thought of this format, because this is the first time that I've done a live podcast and taken input from the chat. So I would like to know what you thought, and maybe we'll do it again, exactly like this, or maybe just different topics or something like that. But and I guess I should say, just in case for any first-time listeners, that Tin Tower Talks is a podcast where I have guests over to have a conversation about Pokemon. It comes out every 2 or 3 months. We don't really have a schedule here, but you can listen to the entire archive on my YouTube channel, or you can catch the most recent episode on your favorite podcasting platforms. So yeah, again, thank you for watching and for listening, and also I need to say thank you to my patrons for their continued support, especially luxury patron Ethan Saffron. I'm Umbreon Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter. You guys want to say bye?
Bye!
Bye.
Thank you.